Hello, I'm gonna make only one video on this, and it's gonna be the endgame lineup for World Conquer 3. Now, what is endgame, you may ask? Well, you see all these campaigns, yeah? They are beaten with gold. That's like the bare minimum for endgame. And looking at operations, yeah. Endgame means you've beaten all of these. Well, ignore these. I'm still doing them. And this one, and kinda like all of them, that means endgame. You're just beating everything and you're kinda bored. You wanna do something, kinda, I don't know. Yeah, but that's the whole point. And for endgame, the most beneficial thing is conquests. And here, I'm still not done with it. I consider myself as an endgame player, but yeah. You know, the end goal is to gain this level level 3 Legion medals, which is a pretty nice reward. And this one, like, all of these are really good rewards, but really hard to get because you do speed runs in 1950 and 1960. And 1943 is hard as well because the 2 stars, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, what the fuck? You see this level 2 factory, yeah? Like, how are you gonna take over Berlin when you have a level 2 factory? Like, look. Like, there's no way you're gonna take over Berlin. I mean, you can, but yeah, it's kind of hard. Yeah, that's 1943 for you. And there's still the aliens campaigns. I mean, conquest, not campaigns, but there's no challenge versions yet, so we gotta be prepared for that. So, I'm gonna discuss one thing about the conquests, and it's the nukes, basically. You see Russia or USSR, whatever, yeah, they launch nukes a lot. Same with the US. Like, same literally every single country except you, because, of course. And the AI can also cheat. For example, I'm just gonna use a random country. You see, this? Yeah, this can launch nukes. This can also launch nukes, obviously, but when I was playing one day, I was here, I spawned a general here. I'd taken all these cities, and someone nuked me from, like, over here. Oh yeah, this is also taken, so there's no excuses. Yeah. So, the AI can cheat, you can't, obviously, so you gotta be prepared for nukes. Besides that, there's not really much threat, because these are like the most weakest generals you ever see. And even if they're strong, like Manstein, like if you play on the WTO side, you can kill him with just 2 nukes. Really. He has 610 HP, and if you nuke for 400 HP, he can be dead in 2 nukes. And that's like 600 gold, right? So there's no challenge except nukes. And we're gonna deal with the nukes. So I'll discuss something about, I don't know, damage. You see this custom commander, or we call ECs for eyeless commanders, because you can't see their eyes, I guess, yeah. And you see how I equip this guy with like a lot of damage stuff, like plane fighting, tide of iron, Ace commander. Yeah, I keep mixing it up. Explosives and inspiration. That's like the meta for since this has dropped. However, a very interesting proposition by Hetman from the World Conquer 4 Discord suggested we should lower our damage output in favor of survivability. Why? Because of nukes. And I actually think it makes a lot of sense. because this guy will die. Well, not die, like, he will be left at like 10 HP if he gets nuked twice, which happens a lot in challenge conquests. So, his idea is sacrifice some damage, like get rid of inspiring, plus 16 damage, and exchange it with something like Blitzkrieg. It's a okay idea, I would say, because more survivability for nukes, I guess, yeah, and a bit less damage. But the meta has been like this for a long time because expropriation, who the fuck names? Anyways, expropriation heals a lot of HP, and it heals more the more damage you deal. So like, plus 16 attack, if you heal 20% of it, it would be like a 3 HP heal per attack. So that's pretty good, right? Yeah, but the new suggestion about the, I don't know, the, what's it called again? The switch towards more survival for these ECs is actually, that might be the trend, actually, because when 1980 is it? Aliens drop, they would deal a lot of damage, and you will want survival. I hope they can't nuke, but if they do, yeah. Yep, so, survival, basically, I'm calling it, it's gonna be a new trend. The whole damage build will not be the trend, probably. It probably will be, but at a certain point, if you have too much damage, it's a gimmick, because why do you need for a stupid general to do 190 damage to an infantry unit? Do you need that? Like, do you really need 180 damage? Can you like sacrifice a little damage for a bit more survival? Yeah, you know, back then maybe, like a long time, I've been chasing more damage, like maximizing damage output, but it's quite painful in challenge conquest. I gotta admit that. Well, sure, I don't have level 3 expropriation, but it is painful. Like, really painful once this guy gets nuked twice. And looking at Katukov, however you pronounce that Russian name, he has a survival build. I mean, Ace armor is an absolute game changer. Like, he can get nuked more than my EC could get nuked. He heals 16 like HP when it's falling below half health. And that's my usual build with mechanic, so he heals 26 HP when below half health. But if I need more survival, I can have blindage. He takes even less damage. So it's a really good skill if you just like take less damage. And he also, I realized, he deals way less damage than my Alice Commander, but he's just so useful in Conquest because he's just cannot die in a lot of situations. And well, his HP is kind of low. Oh, by the way, if your unit, like your general plus your unit together's HP is actually really high, nukes will definitely target you. Or if you're in a city, which this guy is always in a city, but don't talk about it. Yeah, so this guy always gets nuked. And this guy, if I upgrade his HP, will also always get nuked. But this guy, Kartukov, will have a higher survival chances than this guy. Because this guy can take like a lot of damage off nuke. So he can take more nukes and he can regenerate. Now, okay, you might say, oh, plus 16 HP, that's not a lot. But if someone nukes you, you will be like around below half health, and you can heal back up, which is the good part, and the damage taken will be less, which is like the whole point of survival builds. And I like this trend towards survival, actually, because this guy, all dealing way more damage than at Katukov, you don't need the damage, like Like this guy, in Challenge Conquest, one shots like every unit that you kind of need to one shot. For example, field artillery, that's kind of the minimum. Infantry, you kind of need to one shot that, but he can just one shot them. What else? He can also not one shot a heavy tank, but do you need to one shot a heavy tank? Like, this guy can one shot a heavy tank, but like, sure, but he sometimes doesn't even one shot that. Yeah, basically. Also, this guy's not even that bad. He has level 4 Tide of Iron. He does exceptionally well below half health situations. Oh. And I recently sold my Guderian, which it's a good choice, in my honest opinion. You know, when you see Guderian, you see first, like 5 gold panzer ability and like amazing marching, but there's gimmicks loaded into Guderian actually, because I done some testing, alright. I had him since ages. He's a martial rank. I gave him expropriation like level 2. I did some testing like 1960 and he got wiped. Well, because he, even with expropriation, he literally just cannot heal back up faster. Which is an issue, because you need generals to survive. I also tested 1950 in Turkey. He kinda just died. He doesn't have enough damage for expropriation to work, in my opinion. Even with level 4 plane fighting, it's still quite mid, because it's loaded with like random gimmicks like defense tactic. This is useless. And Panzer Leader, which is also useless, and the only good skills are plane fighting, which is good for damage, Tide of Iron, and by the way, it's one level lower than Katukov's, and Blitzkrieg. Does it even trigger at this point? 24% chance. Like, okay, back in the day, in like alien campaigns or whatever, you like not force close, you like exit the mission and enter back in for the trigger rates to increase, but it's a waste of time. So Guderian isn't actually that good in endgame. And all these other German generals are shit. Like this guy, Rommel. He's the GOAT in World Conquer 4, but no, he's absolute trash. Only good thing is this, which is an issue, because there's nothing else good about him. And yeah. Who else should I talk about actually? Oh yeah, for Govrov. You know, in Endgame, in Conquests, especially probably like in 1980, where in Aliens, where you take out the entire world, this guy's gonna be way too slow. Alright, so you gotta add something like a marching medal. There's nothing good about marching medals, like combinations. So like, what can you match with a marching medal that makes it good? There's nothing. Actually, there is one, but it's still not good. Alright. So Govrov in Endgame is actually quite... He's actually good at the start, but once like you disperse, like you run in like Siberia or something, yeah, this guy's gonna fall behind and become useless. And Sansonetti, which is given for free, I can't really complain, but yeah, he's like also useless, but just in case if you want some infantry help in like operations, he's like the infantry guy. He has supply, which is a very mid skill for survival, plus 4 HP, which is kind of bad. But yeah, he's just a mid infantry general, that's all. And Wedling, is that how you pronounce him? I don't care, but this guy in Sikorsky is like the competition, but they're basically the same. And they're best used as fire suppression generals, because they can actually keep up with your artillery commander. The reason you put fire suppression on this guy and not this guy is because if this guy's fire suppression triggers, he gets attacked twice. And you want the strong guy to attack twice, then the weaker guy to attack twice. So yeah, he's my fire suppression general now. Also, there's Bitrick. Is that, I don't know. He's the best, technically the best damage free to play Air Force generals, someone else did some calculations, and damage per goal is actually the highest, which is good. Because of this, Air Force commander, but he can be infantry. Just to be aware, he can be infantry, even though you probably do not need that. Oh, and then there's this guy. He's like, just in case there's naval missions, you do want him, definitely. But if you don't have this guy, you're gonna use this guy as Navy. But I do highly recommend you getting Mikhaila, just because Raid at Sea is overpowered. Like, absolute overpowered. Like, how? Who thinks it's a good idea to increase the HP heal by like 20 and add more attack? But yeah, the rest of his skills are kinda okay, then trash, then mid. Yeah, and then there's Katukov, which is the one general that I highly recommend. The reason he's good is because level 4 Tide of Iron, great for when some nuke hits you, which is like, again, the only threat. There's Ace Armor, which heals right back up to like half HP when you can take another nuke. Like, the self-regeneration is actually quite important, because in other generals, there's no like passive regeneration besides supply, which is really bad. Plus 8 HP per max, right? Yeah, 8 HP max, and quite expensive, which is very slow health regen. This guy has pretty fast health regeneration. Also, Blitzkrieg, you might find this kind of bad, alright? But if you actually stick around and like close like the not the app, what's it called? Close the like your campaign or whatever, reload it in, and it works. And it's gonna work pretty well if you're very low in HP and you do not want to take retaliation. Because if you're on a super tank, like the mouse, like the mouse tank, whatever, because of like Blitzkrieg, the only units that can retaliate at 2 range is basically field artillery and a super tank. And both are lethal, so like having Blitzkrieg to like kind of counter that when you're very low HP in Conquest is actually useful. I can say the same with Guderian, but he has active healing methods like expropriation. And he has worst passive healing because he has no ace armor, obviously. And he has camouflage for some reason, which is like a bad skill, obviously, but it does help because it reduces damage against artillery. And for artillery, it's like one of the units which deals the damage. So it's not the best skill, but it is useful when you're like in a super tank. Since again, the only units that can actually retaliate are field artillery and itself, the super tank. And Desperate, a very good skill. Well, you can't control the skill like who it applies to because they have to attack you first, but plus 18 damage, that's literally Guderian. Well, Guderian is plus 20 on planes, and it works on offense and defense, but you get the point. It's plus 18 damage on defense, so he's actually quite good. He deals a lot of damage on defense. And Mechanic. Yeah, I have that because I want him to do some more damage in some operations, and sometimes do operation grinds. You see that invasion of North Africa. Yeah, I'm doing that right now, so that's why I have Mechanic. But if I'm in challenge conquests, I use this build for Blandage. And I tested with some super tanks. He can one shot everything that you need, like field artillery, infantry, like those things. Yep, he can do all that actually, so that's good. Okay, where is this? Yep. And I'm gonna talk about, well, I already talked about this guy, all his skills, right? Yeah. I'm gonna talk about the artillery commander. So, remember I said, the more HP that you upgrade, like the more that you get targeted by nukes. For artillery, never upgrade above M General. Because if you do, you're gonna get nuked. And artillery getting nuked is like dead, so you do not want to get nuked. So, I'm still a colonel now, I'm saving some medals. You see I have 179. But if you have enough for M General, just leave it as M General. Do not upgrade to Marshal like I did with this guy. And the commander, he's my main air general now. He's not the best in damage, but he's the best in survival. See again in challenge conquests, because these guys stay in cities, they're actually quite vulnerable to nukes because the nukes target the guy with the most HP and the guy in the cities. So this guy will get targeted by nukes in a city. So, the Air Force, obviously, I use him as air. But organization is why I made him infantry. Because it's kind of like ace tank, but instead of plus 16, it's plus 50 HP. So it heals really quickly. And right back up from like a nuke or something. Granted, he's still not done, but supply is just a bit of help to the guy. Like plus 8 HP still helps, regardless. Like I might be hypocritical, but he's a survival general. He's geared towards survival, not like damage. So that's why I gave him those skills, alright? A shelter expert, which is like low level right now, but at max is plus 20% damage, reduces 20% damage. So it reduces 20% damage from nukes. And I believe enemies nukes does 300 damage. Right? I don't know. But that's a 60 damage reduction if I remember correctly. But if they deal 400 damage, which is our nukes, the reduction will be like an 80 damage reduction. So it's pretty significant for shelter expert. And camouflage. Yeah, that's a defensive skill, which is better than defense tactics, but it's still alright. And ace commander, I'm planning to make him into kinda infantry kinda general role. He can deal good damage if I just upgrade the infantry stars to level 3, and it's gonna be cheap, but yeah. And last point is the air medals. Back in the day, we always valued damage, like nearly always. So we usually put carpet bombing on air generals. And back then, I think I'm now still kind of convinced on carpet bombing. But recent times, there's been a shift towards the aviation field. Because the main reason, well, according to Hetman, is that if you bomb something with very high anti-air defenses, the damage added would not be that significant. Plus, you can use nukes anyway, so yeah. But the only time you kind of need air is that you want a bit of range, so that you can reach more airfields, so you can get to the airfields and reach even more airfields. And in some maps like 1960, every major airport, I think, is like kinda out of range of some other major airports, so having aviation field is actually good. I'm sure it reduces damage, but it's just you need to speed run, not damage run or whatever. So that's why I made the switch to aviation field for now. But this guy says carpet bombing, because I don't have damage medals, unfortunately. And that's kind of the end game guide. Is there more about the end game? Let me think about it. Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly talk about plane fighting and inspiring, because Hammond told me yesterday he swapped plane fighting for blitzkrieg, and in fact he just switched inspiring for blitzkrieg because survival, all that. Yeah, so basically, the only reason why I shouldn't choose plane fighting is because below half HP, the damage is still consistent. Like, if you go like, I don't know, 200 HP, 100 HP, it's still gonna output plus 20 additional damage from plane fighting. But not this one. This one actually gets discounted along with its base attack. So if it deals, if it's below 50% HP, it will deal like 25% less damage. And if this guy's like at 1/4 HP, this guy would deal like 50% less damage. And this skill follows along with the base damage, which I'm talking about, the damage. Yeah. I'm not sure about this, explosives. But explosives' main job is to just heal you. Like, it heals you. Because this thing, yeah, And all those bunkers, you can one shot thanks to explosives. And it's quite a nice heal because with 32 additional damage, that's like 6 healing, right? And you have max expropriation, that's like 9 HP of healing per attacking a bunker. And you can crack cities way faster. You know, unlike in World Conquer 4, where cities are way too tanky for explosive to make sense, and you can crit on cities in World Conquer 4, in World Conquer 3, it actually makes sense for explosives. That's why everyone has explosives. And yeah, that's kinda it. And thanks for looking. No, thanks for listening. Anyways, bye.